Hi everyone, welcome to Anju Academy. In this tutorial, we will see how to use OData for querying API. Now, if you have learned about database, usually we have an option to query a table like this, right? So you can do a select star from a table. It will return all the records. If you want to put some where condition, where, for example, um, list price greater than 10. See, you got the list price here that are greater than 100. So I'm able to query database with some select queries. Similarly here, I'm only interested in the two columns. So it will only query me this table. So this flexibility is currently not available in our API. So if you look at our current API that we have built, the columns are all fixed. So if you look at the Swagger endpoint, so for example, get products. So this one will always return, right? So this one will always return a fixed data. So for example, if I go here and run this, so you can see, right, it is returning ID, product name, few columns it is returning, and then few records which match the condition. Now the problem with this, right, is like your API is fixed. So no matter what your front end or your client application requires. So an example is, what if your front end application only wants to display three columns: product name, product number, and color. So in this case, you have to build another endpoint which will only query those three columns. Now, what if, like the where condition that we added, right? What if your client wants to, only is interested only to display records with list price greater than 10? So in that case, also we are out of options. We have to either create a new endpoint, or we have to somehow create multiple duplicate instances. So using OData, we can create an API, right, endpoint, through which you can clearly accept like what the front end requires, and then based on that we can query the tables. So that way you can have one API endpoint which is called by multiple screens or multiple front end, and you will be returning with through the same endpoint. We should be able to return different output. Like for example, screen 1 may be displaying this 3 data, screen 2 may be displaying this 2 data, right? And then we will not query the database anything more than what the front end needs. So that way our querying is very efficient. We will only query what we need, and then we will also reuse the existing API. So this is going to be very interesting video, and also very cool feature. So I request you to follow this thoroughly. Really helpful. Okay. So in order to understand OData, right, we will try to understand a few concept of OData. So OData is a wrapper that we can build upon our current API, and then here are some of the steps that we will follow in this, and then here are some of the packages. So let's start by adding these packages. So one is automapper.asp.NET Core.odata.ef core, Microsoft ASP.NET Core OData, and Microsoft OData EDM. So what we will do, we will take our existing application, we will stop this, we will go back to the controller, and then we will add those packages here. So I'll go to manage NuGet package, and then we're going to copy this. This is one of our package, and then as usual I will put the link for the GitHub repo in the description, so you don't have to worry. Okay, so now we added those packages into the API project. Now we will also add these projects to our database layer. Here, I think we just need these two. So once I do this, let's go to our database model. So here you can see we have a endpoint for get product. So this one, right? We have a endpoint for get products. So here we will create a new method called get products async. So this get products dynamic. So I'm going to add a new method here async. It's going to take, it's going to return task of queryable. So this is the new, right? So why we are giving iQueryable? Because as I said earlier, we are going to build a API endpoint that will be able to query our API. So it's going to return an instance of product DPO as a iQueryable, and then I'm going to call this method as get product dynamic, a cool name. Now what we will do is he's going to take something called OData query options. So I'm going to add that. So this is what the front end will send the options, which will be in this format. So it's going to be from OData query options. So and then it's going to take a type of product detail because that's where we will be querying. And then I'm going to call this as options. And with this, what we will do, we will create a query. I'm going to say context dot product dot get query. This is the method I'm going to use, and that will come from the OData. So in this method, what I will do, I'm going to pass the mapper that we imported earlier. I'm going to send the options, and the query setting parameter I'll send it as null. And then I'm going to just return this. Okay. So this is my this is all I need uh, to do it in the database layer. So I'm creating a get query async call, and then I'm passing all the options that we want to query. So with this done, let's add this to the interface. We'll copy this, go to the interface so that it's available outside, and then I'm going to add it. And then I'm going to bring in the namespace for this. Okay, so with this done, we should be able to go to the controller. So I'm going to take the version 3 of the controller that we have been using. So here what I will do, we will create a new method here. So this is our regular get products, which will query the data without taking any parameters. So here we are going to add a new method. It's going to be returning I action result, and I'm going to call it get products dynamic. And like we wanted the options, right? So the option that I'm going to take here, the parameter will be of type OData query options. I'm going to bring in the namespace for this, and then it's going to be of type product DTO, and I'm going to call it options. And in this method, I'm going to return OK response with weight data dot get products dynamic, and I'm going to pass my options into this. That's all you need. Now we created a new method called get products dynamic, and then we are accepting the parameters and we are just passing the parameters. Now for this to work, right, this is not sufficient. We still have to do some configurations as usual. So I'll go to the program files and do some configurations. So to do that, first thing that we need to do is here. I'm going to just get rid of this little bit. So first thing is we're going to add some additional options here where you have this add fluent validation. So I'm going to add OData. So that will be in the namespace. So with this done, we should be able to add some options to this options, and this is going to be options dot select. If I would like to my query to provide select option, expand, filter, then I can also give order by. So these are the options that I'm supporting, right? You can configure it however you want. Um, at max stop. So this way, your by putting it null, your front end can specify. There's no limit, right? How much record they want to queue, want to retrieve. If you want to restrict the front end by not like at a maximum value, you can put some value here like 100, right? That way you will only at any time you will only accept 100 as a parameter and return 100 records. And then finally I'll say count. Now also we're going to add root components. So this is just to make sure that the routing works, and then we need to also get the EDM model for this. Okay, so now what we will do, we will implement this method. So what we will do, I'm going to cut this and then move it towards the end so that it's not confusing to users. And then I'm going to make it a static method. Okay, so and then I'm going to say EDM model. So it's going to return EDM model for us to query, and I'm going to create that builder here. So I'm going to say OData conventional model builder, which is again from the namespace. I'm going to call it builder. And then I'm going to add builder dot entity set. And then I'm going to say product DTO because this is what we are going to query, if you remember. So we're going to query on product DTO, and then I need to provide a name for that. So I'm going to just name it as product DTO. And then I'm going to return builder dot get EDM model. Now you can see here this is working. Now let's look at the controller, what we have done. So this is the controller name. So I'm going to call this using this name get products dynamic. So this will be the name of the controller. And also, since we are supporting query for this, we have to give an attribute called enable query. So all that is required. So with this done, I'm going to run this application. Now I created a new endpoint here. So for the get product dynamic. So if you don't pass any parameters, right? So just observe here. So I'm not passing any extra parameters here. So this API endpoint will behave as normal, right? Without just like before, just like get products, it will return whatever data it's supposed to return. However, now I'll add a select option to that. So here is the select option. So you can see in the URL, right? I'm going to pass this parameter, and I'm going to say product name and product number, and then I'm going to execute this. Now you can see, right, it only returned me those two columns. If required, I can add more. So for example, if I want color as well, right, so I'm going to add that here next to this. Okay, so now if I execute, see, I'm getting the color as well. So now we will look at the query itself. So if you look at the output and then look at your query, so you can see it only queried the columns that we specified in the query. So that way your API is super efficient because it's only querying what is required, and then at the same time it's also giving flexibility to your front end to specify what they want. If you want to display all columns, good. If you want to display one column, fine. Not only that, right, it will also provide you some additional things like what if I want only top, right, I want only top 5 records. So here you can see there are multiple records. If I do top 5, you can see it only returned 5 records. Not only this, you can actually mix and match. So let's say I want top 5 and I want these 3 columns. So you can see here, right, it added two conditions here, right? Dollar top is equal to 5 and dollar select is equal to product name, product number, and color. So you can see even this works. Similarly, it also provides some conditions like filter. So let's say you want to say, okay, product name not equal to, like for example here, right, adjust race is there, but I'm not interested in this. So I can give a filter condition here, and this is how you send it. Any stands for not equal to. Similarly, you can give equal to, greater, like that. And then I'm giving string text here. Now if I run that, you can see that product is not getting displayed here because it applied a filter. Again, as I said, it applied on the database. So if you look at the query, you can see, right, it applied the filter here on the name. And then we are actually, if you see here, it says the property is not listed. So let's see how we can enable that. So to do that, let's go back to the program file where I'm adding the SQL server. Here I want to add one extra option, enable sensitive data logging. That's what I need to do. Now if you see, now we'll execute this. So if you go back to the query now and look at the query itself, so you can see the parameter is adjustable race. See, the parameter has been passed and then it applied not equal to that. Similarly, if you want to do some skip, right, for pagination, we can do that. So it will skip the first four records and return the further records. You can also do order by. So this will order by whatever parameter you give. So there are a lot of options in the OData. You can expand, you can, query a child table, lot of things you can do. But this is a high level. I'm demoing you like how you can create an API that's not always fixed, but it can be dynamic, right? So it can do both. So right now, if you don't give any options, it will just behave as a normal API. However, your front end has now capability to tell the API what exactly it wants to display, and your API can like support multiple front ends now, right? You can have 10 screens, right? 10 different HTML screens that are displaying the data from this table, but they are displaying different data based on the select, based on the filter, based on the order by. All that is different. You're still using only one API, right? And then your API is flexible enough to cater to multiple queries, as well as when you're querying the table as well, your API will query only what is required and it will not query anything additional. So thereby it will be huge performance boost for your application. So as usual, I will upload this. I will put the description for the GitHub link in the video description. Uh, so if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you. See you in the next video.